Hello friends, how are you all? I hope you all are healthy and studying regularly. So, in this class, we are going to start off with our next topic, that is pollution, environment, and biodiversity conservation law. Okay, so the first subtopic in this is NEL, that is National Environmental Legislation. Okay, so our constitution originally did not contain any direct provisions regarding the protection of natural environment. However, after the United Nations Conference on Human Environment held in Stockholm in 1972, Indian Constitution was amended to include protection of the environment as a constitutional mandate. Environment-related legislation came very late in 1972 with Wildlife Protection Act 1971. The 42nd Amendment Clause to Article 51A of the Indian Constitution made it a fundamental duty to protect and improve the natural environment. Okay. So clause G of Article 51A of the Indian Constitution states that it shall be the duty of every citizen of India to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, river and wildlife, and have compassion for the living creation. There is a directive given by the state as one of the directive principles of state policy regarding the protection and improvement of the environment. Article 48A states that the state shall endeavor to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard the forest and wildlife of the country. The Department of the Environment was established in India in 1980 to ensure a healthy environment for the country. This later became a Ministry of Environment and Forests, that is MOEF, in 1985. The Environmental Protection Act of 1986, also called as EPA, came into force soon after the Bhopal gas tragedy and is considered umbrella legislation as it fills many lacunae in the existing legislation. Now we move on to our second subtopic, that is pollution related law. So among all the components of environment, air and water are the necessary to fulfill the basic survival of the organism. Okay, and so to protect them from the degradation, the following act will pass, which I will be telling you. First is the Water Act, second the Air Act, third the Environment Act. Now we will study these acts one by one. Okay, so the first one was the Water Act. So the main objective of this act is to provide prevention and control of the water pollution. And if I tell you about some important provisions, okay, so I will tell you the provisions one by one. So the first one is the Act vests regulatory authority in the state pollution control boards to establish and enforce effluent standards of the factory. A central pollution control board performs the same function for union territories and formulate policies and coordinates activities of different state boards. The Act grants power to SPCB and CPCB to test equipment and to take the sample for the purpose of analysis. Prior to its amendment in 1988, enforcement under the Act was achieved through the criminal prosecution initiated by the boards. The 1988 Amendment Act empowered SPCB and CPCB to close a defaulting industrial plant. There was one sub-act also, under this also, which is the Water Cess Act of 1977. So the Water Cess Act was passed to generate financial resources to meet expenses of the state and central pollution boards. The act creates economic initiatives for pollution control and requires local authorities and certain designated industries to pay a cess, that is, cess means a tax, for water effluent discharge. The central government, after deducting the expenses of collection, pays the central board and the state such sums as it seems necessary. To encourage capital investment in pollution control, the Act gives a polluter a 70% rebate of the applicable cess upon installing effluent treatment equipment. Okay, now we will come on to the second one, that is the Air Act of 1981. Okay, and amendment was done on 1987. So to implement the decision taken by the United Nations Conference on the Human Environment held at Stockholm in June 1972, Parliament enacted the nationwide Air Act. The main objective of this act are to improve the quality of air and to prevent, control and abate air pollution in the country. Now I'll tell you the important provisions under this act. So the Air Act's framework is similar to that of the Water Act of 1974. The Air Act explained the authority of the central and state boards established under the Water Act to include air pollution control. States not having water pollution board were required to set up air pollution boards. Under the Air Act, all industries operating within designated air pollution control areas must obtain a consent, that is permit, from the state boards. The states are required to prescribe emission standard for industry and automobiles after consulting the central board and noting its ambient air quality standards. The Act grants power to SPCB and to test equipment and to take the sample for the purpose of analysis from any chimney, fly ash or dust or any other. Prior to its amendment in 1988, enforcement under the Act was achieved through criminal prosecution initiated by the board. And the last one is Environment and Biodiversity related acts, which we will be covering in our next class. So that was all for today's class. We will meet in the next video. Till then, goodbye, take care.